We have 3 suttas today, 3 short suttas. They are interconnected. Buddha's reminder for us to practice the Dhamma. The first is called Samayâsamaya Sutta, A 5.54. This comes from SD 51.15. The second sutta is called the Āṇi Sutta, the drum peg, S 20.7. And this is from SD 11.13. And the third sutta is called the Sugata Vinaya Sutta, A 4.160. This is from SD 6.7. So I'm starting with the longer sutta. We go on to the close to the shortest one. Now, this word Samayâsamaya Sutta translate as the discourse on the timely and the untimely. See, Pali is a very beautiful language. You can see here a carrot. I think this is called a carrot, right? So here means 2 vowels. Samaya is one word, and then Samaya is another word. So this little cap here means the 2 words Samaya and then Samaya joined together. It's pronounced as Samayâsamaya Sutta. So Samaya, remember in the sutta is open with Ekang Samayang Bhagawa. Ekang means one, Samayang, time. The Buddha was reciting in such a place. So Samaya means timely, the right time. Asamaya means not the right time. The discourse on the right time and not the right time, the timely and the untimely. This is found in Anguttara Nikaya, the book of 5s. I mean, there are 5 items here. Sutta 54. If it is A, Anguttara, it means this is addressed to the lay people like us. And the theme of this sutta is the best conditions for spiritual striving, for practicing the Buddha's teaching. All right. Okay, so let's look at the sutta. It's quite a simple, direct sutta. Okay, this is another sutta which is related to our study here, but this is from another. This is A 5.59. Dulabha Buddha Pabajita Sutta 1. Okay. So this is from SD 51.15. Brackets 1.2a. Notice the brackets here, there's no space. That means this is a sutta name. This is found in section 1.2, and it's the first sutta, that's A. Dulabha. Labha means to get. Du means difficult to get and difficult to find. Buddha, just like the word Buddhi, Buddha, Buddhi, progress. Okay. Pabajita, go forth, renounce. Here, renunciant, it means a person. Okay. In other words, to go forth successfully. Right? Sutta 1. Okay. The first discourse on what is difficult to find in one who goes forth in old age. So this is a very short sutta, right? Typical of the Anguttara. The Buddha says, it is difficult to find these 5 qualities in one gone forth in old age. What are the 5? So here the Buddha is saying people who become monks when they are old, it's difficult for them to cultivate 5 things. It is difficult to find one gone forth in old age who is astute. Astute, that means clear-minded, making the right decisions, okay, wise. It is difficult to find one with proper decorum. In other words, they are properly dressed, they keep the rules. It's very difficult. Normally, because they are old, they tend to be careless and so on. And if they become monks late in life, when they are old, it is difficult to find such a person who is deeply learned, right? Because they became monks late, they are unlikely to be able to remember things. Number 4, it's difficult to find one who is a Dharma speaker, right? So they won't be able to talk Dharma. They'll be talking gossip things, what they like and don't like about their whole life. And then 5, it is difficult to find one who is the Vinaya expert. They probably won't care about the Vinaya, right? So, because they just want to retire and have a safe passage, so to speak, right? So these pictures are the 5 qualities that are difficult to find one going forth in old age. Now, remember, whenever you read such a sutta, you should understand that the Buddha is not saying that old people should not renounce. Rather, the Buddha is saying you should renounce as soon as possible. And then as you progress, as you grow old, then you have all these wonderful qualities in you. That's the meaning here. So this is a kind of a gentle warning to tell people not to take advantage of the renunciation, the Sangha, to be like a retirement program. No? So that's the meaning here. Further down, there's another sutta, Dulabha Buddha Papajita Sutta 2. So here, again, there are 5 more things which are difficult to find someone who renounces when they're old. It's one, it's difficult to find one gone forth in old age who is amenable. Amenable, that means who is open to instruction, because they are old and they think, oh, no one should tell them anything. And most of the teachers are younger than them. And it is difficult for one who is old to who well retains what he has learned. Very difficult for him to remember teachings. Number 3, is difficult that such a person will respectfully accept instructions. Normally they will say something, some snide remark, or that they will scold people, right? And of course, number 4, it's difficult for them to be Dhamma speaker, that they'll be talking household things. Then number 5, they are not sure of the Vinaya themselves, and so on, right? So these are the 5, the 10 altogether, right? The kind of overlapping. The Buddha is saying, you try your best to learn the Dhamma early. Don't wait. Okay, let's go further down to the sutta. So, in fact, there is a story here. This is a real story. The old Subhadra in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. There is this after the Buddha has passed away. In D16, that's Mahaparinibbana Sutta, chapter 6, section 20. After the Buddha, when the news of the Buddha came out, many of the monks were very sad. Only the arahats were very calm. So then there was this monk, Subhadra, who was a novice actually. He became a novice in old age. And then he says, enough Avuso, do not sorrow, do not weep. We are free of that great sage. We were harassed thus. This is allowable to you, this is not allowable to you. But now we can do what we like and not do what we do not like. So imagine if the monks record such words, which are not really so happy, we know very well this has to be true, right? So this is a warning how some people just become monks for their own advantage, no? So this is wrong words. Okay, let's go down further. Let's look at some positive teachings. Let's go straight to the sutta itself further down. Now, of course, before we come to the sutta, there is one more story of an old monk who is actually a very exemplary monk. He's a good person. We will let's go down first to the sutta, and I will tell you the story a bit more. Okay, here you are. Okay, let's just stay here. So the name of this person is called Radha, the Brahmin Radha. Now, this Brahmin Radha, his story is found in the Dhammapada story. He grew old, and then his children didn't care for him, so he went to the monastery and started helping around. He was very helpful, so the monks kind of allowed him to stay. So he spent many years as a temple hand, and he was very helpful, and he's very happy there. So you'll find that in the monasteries, there are also lay people staying there, helping around and doing what laymen should do to help the monks in their practice and their life. Okay? And of course, in this way, these lay temple hands also have food, because there's always extra food in the monastery, and he has shelter, a safe place to stay, right? So in due course, Radha thought that he was ready to be a monk after spending a number of years as a temple hand. He's very happy to be a monk. But because he's old, nobody wanted to ordain him. Nobody wanted to accept him. And he was very sad and unhappy. And then the Buddha found out about this. So the Buddha got the monks together and asked, does anyone here remember anything good about Radha and would like to ordain him, right? So this when Sariputta came forward and said to the Buddha, this is where once again we see Sariputta showing his great compassion and concern for other people. So you see Sariputta as this Arahat who is very compassionate. In fact, we can say that his wisdom and his compassion are in a wonderful balance. He has both of them. So he says, oh, I remember Bhante, Radha once offered me a little full of rice. And that's what Sariputta remembers. He says, he gave alms to me. I will ordain him. So Radha became a monk, and the chief of the wisest of the monks after the Buddha. And of course, Radha practiced the Dhamma. He has been observing the monks, and so he easily practiced and became an Arahat himself. So it's a very happy story, you know, where we see this, in this case, an old person, an old man becoming a monk and attaining Arahathood, because he's been staying in a monastery. All right, so here we have the Samayâsamaya Sutta, the discourse on the timely and the untimely. Bhikshus, there are these 5 wrong times for spiritual striving. What are the 5? Here the Buddha is saying there are 5 occasions which can be very, very difficult for us to practice the Dharma. So you can see here, this is the numbering for the whole sutta. And then these brackets are numbering of the points. No? So first 5 points. 1, here bhikshus, a monk is old, overcome by age. This is a wrong time for striving. We already mentioned a few stories why it's difficult for old people to renounce the world, right? So the idea is to become monks whenever you can, even as a young person. I wouldn't talk much about the young one but yet, because in the next section, the right time you find, we'll talk about this when a monk is young. You know? Number 2, furthermore, bhikshus, a monk is ill, overcome by illness. So this bhikshu is the second wrong time for striving, or very difficult time, or not the time for striving, right? So when the monk is old, and the monk is ill, right? When the person is ill, it's obvious, right? The person is sick, and there are all kinds of problems. When you're sick, people have to take care of you, and then you become a burden to the other monks. So that's why the monks have to be healthy. The monks don't eat too much, and they also eat the right kind of food. And they also do exercises by doing the walking meditation daily. And they should not get sick, because, as you know, like when there was COVID, there's so much problems that you need social distancing and so on. So this is even more important in the Sangha community. So the monks have when a monk falls really sick, he has to live by himself in a small quarter, and then someone will has to take care of him. So it's very difficult for a monk to practice when he's sick, right? So this is not a good time. Next, brackets 3. Furthermore, bhikshus, when there is a famine, poor harvest, when alms food is difficult to get, it's not easy to live by gleaning. Now, what gleaning usually means the people that after harvest, people go into the field to pick up a few bits and pieces of all those grain and so on that have dropped to the ground, so that they can use it as their food. But here, gleaning is used in a metaphorical term for the monks to go on alms round. Here, when there's a famine, it's difficult for the monks to get food also. So it's a difficult time to practice when there is a famine, when it's difficult to get food. Then, next one, brackets 4. Furthermore, bhikshus, when there is fear. Now, this word fear in Pali is bhaya. It can also translate as danger, like Malay bahaya. No? When there's the fear or the danger of inroads, in other words, raids, attacks by savage tribes, and people mounted on their carts flee from the country. So this one, in other words, when there's social unrest, people leave their homes and towns to go away elsewhere. So there's a time when a monk cannot go out, like during an emergency where there's some social unrest. It's difficult for the monk to practice, right? So these are the conditions for the where it is very difficult to practice. Let's go further down. And the 5th condition, furthermore, bhikshus, the sangha is split. When the sangha is split, bhikshus, there is reviling of one another, accusing of one another, quarreling with one another, rejecting one another. Then those lacking faith, those with little faith, only remain faithless, and some of the faithful lose their faith. So this is a bad time, wrong time for practice. So now, once you see this kind of statement, we know that the sutta was compiled quite late. There was quite a lot of monks were already present in the sangha, and they had different opinions, and they were quarreling. So this is not good, right? Well, in a sense, you might say, even today, the sangha is split, right? You got the Mahayana, you got the Theravada, you got the Vajrayana. But this, of course, they seem to be friendly to each other, and because it's important that they appear friendly to the public so that they get support. Otherwise, it's difficult for them. So this is the other reason why they appear to be friendly, right? But here the Buddha is talking about practice. Right? This is a wrong time when the sangha is split, when the monks are quarreling. So these are 5 bad situations. Now let's look at the good situation. This is the happy one. Okay, to notice the Buddha always close with the happy one. Beginning with section 7. Bhikshus, there are these 5 right times for striving. Striving meaning practicing the Dharma. What are the 5? 1, here bhikshus, among is young, black-haired, young lad, endowed with the blessings of youth in the prime of life. This bhikshus is the first right time for striving. The Buddha or Siddhartha left home around late 20s, right? So it's regarded as quite young, still black-haired, healthy and strong. He struggled for 6 years doing all those difficult practices. And then finally he turned to the middle way, right? So he is such one of those young people. In fact, as a young renunciant, a young monk, another young person, the King Pasenadi, met him and then spoke to him and said, oh, You are so young. So how do you know? How can you know all the suttas? How can you be wise and be awakened, right? So here the Buddha says, well, it says age is not really a serious. I mean, it's not an impediment. Okay, if someone really tries hard, even a young monk should be respected. He told the king, for example, he says, "Oh, king, if you see a small snake, you don't look down on it because this small snake will grow into a big snake, so quite dangerous, no? And also, we don't want to insult a young prince because this young prince will become a great king one day. So too, in the case of a young monk, this monk will grow old to be wise. So it is one young person talking with another. So here, the good thing about practicing the Dhamma is, as long as you keep up the practice, you find you're doing all this practice more and more over time. So this is where impermanence is on your side. Now, as you know, last year, 2022, we celebrate 20 years of Sutta work, right? So the good thing is, over 20 years, I've compiled all the suttas. As you can see, the dates are all written at the end of the sutta. So I have this store, about 60 volumes of sutta. So when I'm doing my translation work, I can always refer back and compare and then improve the translation, make use of the old notes. So the last year and this year, we celebrate our 20 years by writing 5 volumes of modern approach to meditation, all the about meditation teachers, about meditation methods, about difficulties in modern meditation, right? So this is volume 60. So I feel so happy because I can refer back to all the notes I've done, the research I've done over the years, and put them together and then discuss some of these issues which are very important today for the psychotherapists and for the modern meditators, right? So here is where you see, having started long ago, started when we were younger, you see all these things building up beautifully. And for most of you here, you have started many years ago. You started very young, and you find now you have some idea what the Buddha's teaching is, what the precepts are, how to do meditation, and so on. So just keep it up. Just keep it up. Never underestimate yourself. Never say, oh, nothing's happening to me. Because what you are now, the peace and the joy that you can see today is a result of this practice. You have this, in a small way, all these practices have brought this blessing for you. So, and you find we all grow old, we change, and this is what helps us to calm our minds, to keep us feeling happy inside as we see our old friends passing away, right? All right, then the next one, number 2, further bhikshus among is healthy, rarely sick, rarely afflicted with good digestion, one that is neither too cold nor too hot. This is the body, neither too cold, too hot. In other words, the body is healthy, but moderate, suitable for striving. This bhikshu is the second right time for striving, right? So don't wait until you're sick. So in other words, we should stay healthy also. So as a Buddhist, it's our duty to stay healthy. So, and in Singapore, we're often reminded, right, to do exercise, to stay healthy. And there's a very beautiful and very big park in Jurong for us to go and do our yoga, our exercise, our walking and running, or just to sit there and meditate. You have this beautiful floating wetlands. And now they have a very large skateboard ring there also, very huge, 8 rings there. So you have lots of beautiful spaces for for us to practice in the Jurong Lake Gardens. And there are, of course, gardens in your own country, your own town. So find those good, peaceful places. Because Buddhists, we love trees, we love nature. We are reminded of the Buddha. We love lakes. You can sit down beside the lake and meditate. I like to do my yoga facing this beautiful Jurong Lake, So, and every other day, I try to do some stair climbing exercise. I climb up the 5 floors and I take a short break, catch my breath, and then after that, three more floors. After that, 5 more floors up to the 13th floor. Right? So if you're young, it's not difficult at all to climb. Rana could easily climb 1 to 13th floor. And then after that, we go down floor, go down to the ground floor, and then I climb 1 more round up to the 8th floor. And I'll be breathing heavily. And that also helps the heart. This is a cardiac exercise. And then rest a while, have a wash. And it's dinner time, right? So this kind of exercise also help to keep me healthy so that I can do my work and then give you all these classes. Right? So this, to be healthy is the greatest wealth. Arogya paramalabha. Be free from disease is the greatest profit, right? So make sure you spend some time doing sensible, proper exercise for yourself. That's if you are old and just starting to exercise, do it slowly, simple walking. If you're not sure, you ask your doctor what are the things you can do or should not do. Then next one. Okay, so since the time is 9 o'clock here, we'll just take a short break here. Now let us go on to point number 3, section 10, brackets 3. Furthermore, bhikshus, food is plentiful, the harvest is good, alms food is easy to get. One can easily live by gleaning. So this bhikshus is the third right time for striving. So in other words, right now you find there's enough food, and the monks have enough to eat, right? So this is a good time for practice. But even then, there are Vinaya rules which tell the monks to be easily supportable. You remember in the Metta Sutta, Karaniya Metta Sutta, which says the person should be contented and easily supportable with little busyness and living a simple life, with the senses calm and wisely careful, unobtrusive, not running after families. Right? So here the Buddha reminds the monk not to depend too much on a family, not to parasite on a family, not to spoil families. In other words, take just what you need on the alms round. Occasionally the families will come and offer food, and so to live simple life for the sake of practice, right? In other words, a true renunciant is not worried about his future, right? So imagine if a monk were to worry about money and say, oh, I must have savings when I grow old. It's definitely not a monk. He's worried about savings in old age. Because monks don't think in that way. Because they live in a monastery, there'll be other monks, there'll be other people to take care of them. And so they just practice, and somehow people take care of them, right? So even though we say food is plentiful, it means it should be moderate. You should not exploit the situation as renunciants. Okay, let's go further down. 11. Furthermore, bhikshus, people dwell in concord, with mutual joy, without disputing, mixing like milk and water, seeing each other with kindly eyes. Notice this last phrase, like milk and water, mixing like milk and water, seeing each other with kindly eyes. This is also found in the Majjhima Sutta, in the Dharma Sutta. So you find if you go to a Buddhist center, Buddhist group, people are friendly, that's very good. Yeah. But if you go there, you find people don't talk to you because you're not famous or rich. Then no, don't go to that kind of place. Yeah? So you can always like form your own group or go to a place where they're very Dharma centered, Dharma spirited. So concord here also means to respect other people, they're kind to other people. There are always such good temples if you look around. Otherwise, you can even get together at somebody's home or even in the park. They have a discussion or meditation. So this is what a lot of Buddhism is going in the West, and this is what they're doing. They form their own groups, and they get together to study the Dhamma. So this is how we dwell together in concord and joyful, helping each other. So it becomes like a club, you know, you care for each other through the Dhamma, right? It's important that these people respect. And then the last section 12, brackets 5, furthermore, bhikshus of Sangha dwells in concord, mutually rejoicing in one another, not quarreling, one teaching and recital, one teaching and one recital, in other words. So you have the same Dhamma, same Vinaya, and they live at ease. At ease means comfortable in the sense of no fighting and no problems. When the Sangha is in concord, bhikshus, and not reviling one another, not accusing one another, not quarreling with one another, not rejecting one another. Notice the word rejecting, right? So they accept each other. Then those lacking faith, those with little faith, gain faith. And the faithful become even more faithful and grow in number. So this bhikshus is the 5th right time for striving, right? So it's wonderful to, have this kind of place where there's a lot of fellowship. Remember, if you cannot find this kind of place, then start your own group, even a small group. When we gather together as a Buddhist group, our aim is not to start a big temple or community. We just want to spend time together, and something wonderful will happen when you do that, right? So here, Sangha refers, of course, to the monks. And then there is also the community, that's the lay people. We are happy together, right? Sometimes you may not be able to find monks or find good monks. Then the suttas are available, you study the suttas, right? Because if you go to the bad monks, it's as bad as not practicing the Dhamma, right? So you can practice on your own, study the suttas, even at home on your own, and occasionally do something kind to people, and you find you connect with people, and people ask you, how is it that you're so happy? Then you tell them a bit about the Dhamma. Okay? So this is how we all live when the time is right or not right. Okay? So this is the sutta on the right time and the wrong time. Samayâsamaya Sutta. Okay, before we go on to the second sutta, any questions, anyone? Any question troubling you before I go on to the next sutta? Okay, no questions, then we go on to number 13, 11.13. It is Āṇi Sutta. All right, here you are. Āṇi Sutta, the discourse on the drum peg. So Āṇi means a drum peg, S20.7. So the theme here is how to prevent the disappearance of the Dhamma. All right. This is quite a short sutta. Here the Buddha gives a very interesting metaphor. Let's look at the sutta. Go further down, please. Okay, right. Āṇi Sutta, the discourse on the drum peg, S20.7. The Buddha was staying at Savatthi, and then the Buddha said, bhikshus, once in the past there was a mirutankam, a barrel drum. Okay, so I found this modern Indian word, which can be anglicized. So rather than use barrel drum, we use mirutankam, right? I suppose you are from India, this will sound familiar. The mirutankam of the Dasarahas. Dasaraha is a tribe of people. They are like lords. They get a tenth of the harvest. So they use this drum to summon, to gather together to meet. So it's called the summoner Ānaka, right? Whenever the summoner cracked, so this is the drum of that clan. When the summoner cracked, the Dasarahas inserted a peg. So in other words, whenever there's a bit of break in the drum, these people, this clan will put in a small piece of wood to fit in, and to make sure the drum is whole, is complete. So this went on many years and generations. So it's a very old drum. Yeah, there came a time, bhikshus, when the summoner's original drum head disappeared. So this the head of the drum is all gone because the pieces keep falling off and then replaced. So there is only a collection of pegs as the drum head, at the head of the drum. The original drum head is gone. Even so, this will be the case in the future. So here, notice the Buddha is using this interesting metaphor, this interesting something he has observed. This drum, the pieces keep breaking off and then it's replaced. And in the end, the original drum head is gone. You have this new pegs around the drum head. So this is what the Buddha used to explain the danger of the disappearance of the Buddha's teaching. 5. When the discourses spoken by the Tathagata, by the Buddha, thus come, profound, deep in meaning, supramundane, connected with emptiness, are being spoken. Okay, further down. The people have no desire to listen to them. They do not lend their ears to them. They do not apply their minds to understand them. And they will not think that these teachings should be studied or mastered, right? So this is a very risky, dangerous situation. It's happening right now around us, right? And you are the few people who are serious about the practice. Now let's go back to the previous line above. Okay. So you notice here, the Buddha used certain terms to describe the Dhamma. The Dhamma is, of course, profound, it's deep, because this is not small talk, right? It's deep, it's profound. The words are different from usual words. Deep in meaning, like that there are special meanings of special words. Supramundane, that means it can bring you to a higher level of happiness beyond this world. And it teaches you to let go of the world, let go of suffering. In that sense, it's connected with emptiness. Okay? All right, so, but people don't listen to it. Let's go back further down. Right, so people don't have no desire to listen. They rather listen to what are called entertaining talks. They like to laugh, and but this laughter leads to suffering, which they don't realize. Yeah. So the idea is to listen to something useful that will help us to be wise and happy. Now, then 6, but when those discourses that are poetry or worldly writings composed by poets, meaning writers and scholars, beautiful in word and phrase, composed by outsiders, spoken by their disciples, are being spoken, they will desire to listen to them. They will lend their ears to them. They will apply their minds to understand them and will think that these teachings should be studied and mastered. So here, what is the Buddha talking about? Who is the Buddha talking about? Now, notice this word poetry, kavi. and the poets also are called kavi. Here is a broad term Buddha uses to refer to worldly writings, scholarship, academic writings, of course, including poetry and worldly writings, basically, right? So this is the Buddha's warning. Sometimes I wish people like Apollo Rahula and those Sinhalese monks, they read this and reflect this. The Buddha is saying, don't do those things they've done. They were saying that Vinaya is not important. The monks have to become more involved with social work, things like that. But here the Buddha is saying just the opposite. Say, don't get involved with the world. So now you find they want to get degrees. University study is so important to them. In the end, they forget the dhamma. Their behavior became very worldly. So this is the warning the Buddha is saying, right? So don't get caught up with academic work, with degrees, the works of the poets, the kavi, the writers and the scholars. Thus, bhikshus, 6.2, thus, bhikshus, the discourses spoken by the Tathagata, profound, deep in meaning, supramundane, connected with emptiness, would disappear, right? Now, it's more tricky than this because we think that we know the Dhamma, right? These scholars, these modern monk scholars or non-scholars, they think they know the Dhamma. They can even quote to you. They can memorize things. But their practice is not there. They are very worldly. They socialize easily. Their standard is not the Vinaya. The standard is academia. It is the way the scholars behave, the way the world look up to them, even the way they wear their robes and keep their hair. They follow the way of the world. Right? So these are danger signs, in other words. That's why the sutta is so important. Therefore, bhikshus, you should train yourself thus. When the discourses spoken by the Tathagata, profound, deep in meaning, supramundane, connected with emptiness, are being spoken, we should have the desire to listen to them. We should lend our ears to them. We should apply our minds to understand them. And we should regard these teachings as being worthy of studying and mastering. Thus, bhikshus, you should train yourselves, right? So the Buddha basically is saying, keep studying the suttas. Of course, not only that, but to see the meaning and to let the suttas into our lives so that we feel more peaceful inside. There is this inner change that goes through us. This inner change is very important. Otherwise, we see the sutta not as a state. In other words, we don't attain that calm state, but it becomes a status. Status means you count how many suttas you have studied, and then you boast, oh, I heard so many suttas, but you have not changed. Or it's just like people, they say, oh, I'm keeping 8 precepts or 10 precepts, but the 5 precepts are not very well kept. So this is, again, it's not boasting about all these things. It's actual practice, and we change, we become more calm, more compassionate, and we become wiser and happier. And this is a habit we can cultivate by reflecting on some teachings that we like, and then we learn to be happy that way. Okay, so you find there's always something there. Put aside some of these happy suttas that you like, suttas that help you to be happy, help you to remember the important teachings. And this is how our life changed. So you find some of you are very dedicated, right? You know the time, the date, the time for study of the sutta, and you set aside the time, and you try to share this with your friends, and you are guided by this kind of peacefulness and wisdom given to us by the Buddha, right? So this is the reminder given by the Āṇi Sutta. But there's something interesting here, which something I just thought about yesterday, about the drum pack. See here, the Buddha says that this old drum bits and pieces break and fall off, and then these dasaras keep, adding in bits and pieces to pack the drum. So in the end, it's a totally new drum head. So here the Buddha is saying, people keep changing the Dhamma, adjusting the, modernize it until the Dhamma is gone. There is another way of reflecting on this teaching, because this is something extra. We should not forget the teaching here. This is extra note 143. You can read up, added into your notes. This is not found in any previous notes. You can compare this drumhead, the Mirutankam, to the Greek story of Theseus' ship. The story goes that it's said that there was this Greek historian called Plutarch who lived around the year 46 to 127. He recorded an interesting problem that goes back to the time of Greek mythology called Theseus' ship. Now, Theseus was a Greek hero of Athens. He was the one who is said to have slain the Minotaur, on I think one of these islands. So this Minotaur is a kind of like a very strong, powerful man with a bull's head. So anyway, they like to kill these beings in the past. So anyway, this is a story about this Theseus, who is this Greek hero who goes sailing around the ancient world around Greece, and then with the youth of Athens, and then the ship comes back, and of course these ancient Greeks, they preserve this wonderful ship as a memory of Theseus' travels, and then he's like the leader of Athens, so they want to preserve this ship as like a symbol of their city-state, So they keep this ship century after century. And every time a piece breaks, they replace that part with a new piece of plank. And so they went on doing this over time. So according to Plutarch, he wrote an account of this, okay? Now I'm going to read to you the translation, English translation of the Greek passage. And this translation is done by John Dryden, an English poet. And, this is what he wrote. The ship wherein Theseus and the youth of Athens returned from Crete had 30 oars and was preserved by the Athenians down even to the time of Demetrius Valerius. For they took away the old planks as they decayed, putting in new and stronger timber in their place, insomuch that this ship became a standing example among the philosophers for the logical question of things that grow, one side holding that the ship remained the same, and the other contending that it was not the same, right? So imagine this old ship, the plank is being replaced over century after century. So in the end, the ship, the look is there, but the planks are all new. So the question now, is it the same ship or a new one, right? So this is where I also use this parable, this metaphor, to show you the example of non-self, right? So our body keeps changing over time. So are we the same person? When we are reborn, we attain a new body. So are we the same person? Right? So this is a very interesting parable. I don't want to go too deep because this is about non-self. But we can say this. The worldly ideas, the law, for example, talks about the same body. It's only if you have the same body, then it's regarded as the same person. But in Buddhist teachings, as long as you have the same mind, so this mind that moves on the next life, and so you may be reborn as another person, another being. In a sense, you are the same person. The karma will come back to you. That's the meaning here. So this is something to think about. This is another use of this Mirutankam metaphor, all right? So anyway, if you're interested in this philosophical idea about non-self, you can read up the Āṇi Sutta, section 143. Something extra. Huh? Okay, so now, one more time, let me ask you any questions before I go on to the last sutta? Anyone wants to ask any question? Okay, if not, then I will go on to the last sutta, which is the Sugata Vinaya Sutta. Okay, so here the discourse on the Sugata's discipline. Vinaya is discipline. Now this sutta appears twice, A4160 and A5156. Now this is very interesting because here Sugata means the Buddha, the well gone, Vinaya. So here instead of Dhamma, the word Vinaya is used. But the word Vinaya here refers to the Buddha's teachings, similar, even identical as the word Dharma. That is why we have to be open-minded when we study Pali. The Buddha uses words to show emphasis on what is important, right? So the Buddha could say Sugata Dhamma, but here he wants to stress on the Vinaya. So the Buddha's teaching here is called Sugata Vinaya, the well-gone, well-farers discipline. Verse 1, the Sugata or well-farer bhikshus, or the Sugata's Vinaya, remains in the world for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the good and happiness of gods and humans, right? So here we see the Buddha saying what is the teaching is for, right? So instead of saying the Buddha Dhamma, here the word Sugata Vinaya is used. I think this is the only sutta the word Sugata Vinaya is used, right? So we can see here the Buddha stressing on the Vinaya. Now notice the Buddha says he remains in the world, he teaches the Dhamma for the good of the many. In other words, for anyone who wants to listen, who's able to listen, for the happiness of the many, anyone, right? Listen can be happy because the Buddha has compassion for the world. So for people who say Buddha don't care about the world, here, the Buddha has compassion for the world. And not only the world, but also for the good and happiness of gods and humans. Gods and humans, right? Now, why does the Buddha mention gods here, like devas? So this is where I'm using my imagination a bit. Rather than think of the devas as different realms and we are worshipping them and so on, if the Buddha is talking about teaching, and the devas have to learn can and learn Dhamma also, we can imagine these gods refers to aliens in other parts of the universe, but probably they also had a chance to learn the Dhamma. The monks or arahats who have powers of teleportation could have visited them, like Moggallana, Sariputta. In other words, in the future, don't be surprised when aliens and humans meet. Some of them might say they've heard of the Dhamma, or it is easier for them to accept the Buddha because the Buddha's teaching is really universal. The Buddha doesn't talk of someone creating the world, and having all this idea about earth-centered universe and so on. The early Buddhism already talked about this vast universe. So this idea of alien studying Buddhism is a very fascinating idea. It's my personal thought. I thought that it's a very interesting way of understanding the word gods, right? So just give it a thought anyway. Yeah, it's okay if you disagree with me, but I thought it's an interesting thought, all right? All right, basically the Buddha is saying, don't lose the Dhamma, don't lose the Sugata Vinaya. Okay, let's go on. What does he say next? Who bhikshus is the Sugata? Bhikshus that arises in this world, that the Tathagata does come. Arahat, worthy, fully self-awakened, accomplished in wisdom, conduct, welfarer, knower of worlds, supreme guide of persons to be tamed, teachers of gods and humans, awakened, blessed. This bhikshus is the blessed one. Now, this is important. It defines the one Buddha, the one teacher. You just need one Buddha only, right? So he arises in the world. So it's not a God's prophet or anything like that, but he's a human being. He comes to the world and he becomes Buddha. He becomes awakened as an arahat through self-awakening, right? He becomes worthy because of his good conduct, compassion, wisdom, and he's fully self-awakened, and his your wisdom and conduct both are present. In other words, what he teaches, he practices. Body and mind are in harmony. Welfarer, wherever he goes, he brings peace. Knower of worlds, he knows the nature of all our existence, all the three worlds, and also of body, speech, and mind, and supreme guide of persons to be tamed. In other words, here, he is able to teach anyone who's ready and willing and ready to learn. And he then teaches of gods and humans. Here again, he doesn't only teach humans, he also teach aliens. Awakened, he is himself knowledgeable. He knows the true reality. And it is a blessing to have him, not suffering. Right? So this is the Sugata, this is the Buddha. Right? So it's not only the Buddha, it's also the Buddha's teaching. Right? Here you are. But here the word Vinaya is used, discipline. And what bhikshu is a Sugata Vinaya. Right, so he teaches the Dhamma. Good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end. Both in the spirit and the letter. He proclaims the holy life that is entirely complete and pure. This bhikshu is a Sugata Vinaya. Notice this phrase, these 3 lines, is usually used to define the Dhamma, but here it defines the Sugata Vinaya. So here the Buddha is referring to the teaching. But here he calls it the Vinaya, because without Vinaya, you don't have the Dhamma. The Sugata welfare bhikshus of the Sugata Vinaya remains in the world for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the good and happiness of gods and humans. So you find the teaching is to bring happiness to everyone. Then the Buddha gives us a warning, 4 conditions, 4 dangers, by which we can lose this teaching. Because there are these 4 conditions that conduce to confusion regarding the true teaching. 2 is destruction. What are the 4? All right, number 1, here bhikshus, the monks, here means can be anyone who studied the sutta, that grasp the suttas in the wrong way, with their sentences and words in the wrong order. Bhikshus, one who grasps the suttas in the wrong way, with their sentences and words in the wrong order, draws out the wrong sense too. Bhikshus is the first condition that conduces to confusion regarding the true teaching, to its destruction. So in other words, here we should study the sutta properly, not mix up the words, but to make sure that we studied it properly. All right. In other words, we look at the sentences, we compare, are they correctly translated or not, and so on. Okay. It's not just a matter of arrangement of words. Understanding the teaching recorded in the Pali. So if we mess it up, then we confuse our understanding of the suttas, then we will lose it. Brackets 2. Furthermore, bhikshus, the monks are difficult to speak to. Not just the monks, but as Buddhists, we are difficult to speak to. We are not friendly, in other words. Possess of qualities that make them difficult to speak to. Impatient, right? When taught, they learn without respect for the teaching and the teacher. Bhikshus is the second condition that conduces to confusion regarding the true teaching, to its destruction. So this respecting the teacher so that we can study properly, understand the Dhamma properly is very important. Another way of looking at this point is to keep an open mind. Very often we sometimes have wrong ideas. So we are patient with people with wrong ideas slowly. We guide them along, help them to understand that how they can correct their understanding. So their understanding grow bit by bit, in other words. So here, to be patient so that we are easy to speak to be kind and compassionate to people who are learning, and those who are teaching also. Okay, further, next. Now, furthermore, bhikshus, the monks are who are greatly learned, masters of sacred texts, Dhamma experts, Vinaya experts, experts in the Matikas. Matika here means doctrinal summaries. Do not speak the suttas to others with respect. And after their passing, others do not recall the suttas, cutting the suttas off at the root. So this is the third condition that conduces to confusion regarding the true teaching, to its destruction. Does not teach Dharma with respect, meaning what? They put worldly knowledge above the suttas. They do not uphold the suttas. Instead, they, for example, maybe emphasize on Abhidhamma, but the sutta is forgotten. People do not remember the suttas. People remember worldly teachings. Then we will forget. The fourth danger, furthermore, bhikshus, many elder monks who, being luxurious, lax, backsliders. Backsliders, I mean, they keep on breaking the Vinaya, breaking rules, shirking the task of spiritual solitude. They don't practice their meditation and go for retreats. They do not put forth effort to attain the unattained. They do not even try to attain stream winning. They keep saying, oh, we can't attain this. To master the unmastered, to realize the unrealized. So this is the fourth condition, right? So these are four things that will make the Dhamma disappear. And again, the Buddha closes with something positive. Four things that they do not conduce to confusion over the Dhamma. So 7 bhikshus, these are four conditions that neither conduces to confusion regarding the teaching nor to its destruction. What are the four? 1, here bhikshus, the monks, that is, including us, grasp the suttas in the right way, with the sentences and words in the proper order. Bhikshus, for one who grasps the suttas in the right way, with the sentences and words in the right order, draws out the right sense too. Bhikshus, this is the first condition, that neither conduces to confusion regarding the true teaching nor to its destruction. Right? Studying the sutta properly in the way it is taught. Number 2, brackets 2, furthermore, bhikshus, the monks are easy to speak to, possess of qualities that make them easy to speak to. Patient, when taught, they learn with respect for the teaching and the teacher. So there is this gentleness, friendliness, right? So, for example, among the proof readers, we have some of the really wonderful people. They're very kind and respectful, and they sometimes they do extra hard work to point out how the teaching, how my essay can be written in a clearer way, and so on. Okay, go further down. So that's the second condition, which helps to promote the Dhamma. 9, brackets 3, further bhikshus, the monks who are very learned, masters of the sacred texts, Dhamma experts, Vinaya experts, experts in the Matika or doctrinal summaries, speak the suttas to others with respect. After their passing, the suttas are not cut off at the roots for there are those who recall the suttas. So in other words, here the monks, the teachers, they make an effort to make sure you all know what the suttas are, so that you can continue learning them even after they have passed away. So this is the third condition to protect the Buddha's teaching. And then number 4, the last one, Furthermore, bhikshus, many elder monks who, being not luxurious, not lax, not backsliders, engaging in the task of spiritual solitude, to spend time in practice, put forth effort to attain the unattained, to master the unmastered, to realize the unrealized. In other words, attain at least true meaning in his life. And the generations that come after them too, being not luxurious, not lax, not backsliders, engaging in the task of spiritual solitude, put forth effort to attain the unattained, to master the unmastered, to realize the unrealized. So in other words, they follow the example of the teacher. So this is the fourth condition that will prevent the Dhamma from being confused, from being destroyed. So these are the four conditions to protect the Dhamma. All right. So here you are. This is the Buddha's reminder for us to study the suttas. Right now, what we are doing. That is why I feel duty bound and also inspired to continue teaching you as much as I can the suttas. This is the message of the Sugata Vinaya Sutta. Okay, sadhu, finish what I have to say. We have about 10 minutes.
Sadhu, thank you, Piya, for the teaching. Now we have our Q&A. Sister Icy, please take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Rana. Sadhu, Brother Piya, for the teaching. At the moment, there is no question in the chat box. Any brother or sisters have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question verbally. Thank you.
I want to ask Mayang, have you heard of the Miru Tangkam?
I've heard the word mridanga, I think, but not exactly this word.
The Tanka, is it?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, yeah.
Miru Tanka, is it? Tanka.
Mridanga, I think it's called mridanga.
Tanga. Yeah, I think there are different dialects, you know. But the drum looks familiar, isn't it? That's
The drum, yes. The drum, I guess, yeah.
Do you know what the drum is called from your area?
I mean, with like the two wooden sticks and they would beat it.
Okay.
Something like that.
Is it called Miru Tanga?
No, not that one. I'm just saying that mridanga is like I've heard the word, like in maybe some like old literature or something, like mythology, perhaps.
Yeah, this is old literature.
The drums are common in Punjabi culture, like even in marriages or any social functions. There are people like they will call those they are like troops, and they will perform those dances and drums and all.
That's right. In the sutta, as you notice, these drums are used for meeting. When the people hear the drum, they gather together in a town square. Right.
Okay. Like in an old city, they would beat a big one announcing something.
Yeah. Those days, they're more like villages, so it's easy to summon the people. So you have very interesting social history of India then. Huh? Okay, any questions?
Brother Pierre, this question from Brother LC.
Okay.
How can the first sutta relate to lay Buddhists? Is it asking all Buddhists lay or renounce to be hardworking early and not waiting to old age?
Okay, so this Samayâsamaya Sutta, right? So this first sutta is basically telling us don't wait, right? You find many of your friends will tell you, oh, I'm too young to learn Dharma. Let me wait until I grow old. We often hear that, right? I think we only hear this in Asia, I don't hear this among the Westerners. Because if you wait when we grow old, you find it's difficult to learn. So the message here is the best time to learn is when your mind is bright and clear and you have more time. That's when you're young, see? Like I said, because I started 50 years ago, I feel so happy, that I've done all this work. I have three shelves of the sutta, of this sutta discovery, and so I can easily just take out those work I've done from there and then refer to them. And the interesting thing is all these suttas are being updated almost every day. And so you find there's always something new to talk about, right? So that's the meaning. You don't wait, because if you wait, you may lose the chance to study the sutta. So the moment you have the chance right now, study the sutta. That's the meaning, okay? All right. Any other question?
Thank you, Brother Piya. There's no question at the moment.
All right.
Thank you.
We have about 8 minutes. But there are lots of new notes, especially for the Āṇi Sutta. And it's very interesting to learn the new word, Mirutanga. No? I think I came across that word also before. So it's just a matter of looking up. Because this is from northern India, so we have to think of a word that comes from that area. And these 3 suttas come from 3 different volumes. And it is Ratna who suggested, putting them the 3 together. Previously, there was only the Āṇi Sutta, very short sutta. So when Ratna suggested the 2 other suttas, I said, wow, that's very good. They're all interconnected. In fact, there are many other suttas also connected, but these 3 are just nice.
Brother Jeshko, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Brother Piya,
Yes, yes.
on this Āṇi Sutta, because in most of the suttas, when there is a simile, normally we can relate the simile with the teaching of that sutta. This particular case of Āṇi Sutta, how can we relate the simile to the
Right.
because I have difficulty correlating the 2 of it. Maybe you would like to explain further on that. Thank you.
Now, first of all, you look at the parable. What is the Buddha saying? The Buddha says, this drum, the drum head, every time it cracks, a piece drop off, the drummer will put a new piece of wood into it. And he keeps on doing that. He keeps on adding, and the old pieces keep falling away. So what happens to the drum head? In the end, after a while, there's no more, the old drum head is no more there. So you got to picture in your mind, this drum head is disappearing, and then someone's putting in a new piece every time. Can you imagine that? Right? Okay, so now we put that to the Dhamma. Okay, for example, the teaching, no non-self, right? So maybe someone say, okay, non-self is difficult, okay, okay, don't think about it, forget about it. Okay, so people start not thinking about it, right? Then they slowly, they don't even remember that there is such a teaching, right? That's what happened in China, In China, they believe on the self, they believe the soul, right? And you notice that the traditional Chinese, when someone dies, they actually think that they go to this hell state, That's why they have to get all those prayers, burn paper money, and so on. So a lot of these things change when Buddhism left India, all right? And then we start adjusting, saying, oh, we don't need this, we don't need that, we cannot become arahats. We slowly remove bit by bit. So in the end, we don't have the teaching anymore. In Japan, they even say there is a Japanese Buddha and a new Buddha. See? So the teaching, the old teaching is gone. The Dhamma is gone. All right. So that's the warning here. The Dhamma gets replaced. It's not the true Dhamma anymore. So the warning here is about not replacing the true teaching with the counterfeit teaching, with the false teaching. In other words, when you buy a product, you want to buy the original, the good product, the good something that works well, see. But if you buy the false one, it doesn't work. You don't want it, see. So that's the meaning here. Okay. Okay.
Okay, Brother Piya.
Sadhu Bante,
Right. Yes. Go ahead.
I have two questions.
Okay.
In modern days view, when somebody is interested to renounce and become monastic,
Yeah.
one is usually interviewed to see one has obligations at home, such as parents, young children.
Yes.
So that you are able to be completely free. I don't remember reading anywhere about Buddha's views on this. There's one. Secondly, talking about support for the monastery, giving food, lodging, and so on. And you also talk about caring for the monastery. Was it medicine or is it when they're ill?
The four supports, is it?
Yes, the
last one is medicine, yeah.
Yes. So in the olden days or even now, how particularly over olden days, how did the people give support, give medicine to the monastery?
Well, not everyone gives everything. Here, what the Buddha is saying, these are the four things that is worthwhile giving to the monks, because these are life-supporting gifts, you see. So, and they're usually very basic things. Of course, in modern times, our medical system is more sophisticated. So a doctor will be very happy to take care of a monk. You have monks who are taken care of by their students who are doctors, for example. So you can go that far, right? I mean, you give something as simple as feng yao, you know, there's some oil that this monk needs for, say, some itch or what, you know. So, what the monks need. Of course, what we normally do is we practice what's called pavarana. Pavarana means invitation. We tell the monk, we limit his request. We say, if you need medicine, so anything limited to medicine, that is, in other words, the cost is within your ability, he can ask you. So then he will know, he will keep in mind that pavarana. Then when he needs something, he will tell you, he will tell, okay, layman, I need this oil for, I have a bit of, you know, this mosquito been biting me, so I need some oil. So then you give. Yeah. So that's one way, through invitation. You tell the monk that I'm willing and able to give you this. Okay. Or maybe you say, whenever you are here in Hong Kong, you know, in other words, you limit by place. If you need a robe, I will give you. Of course, you're not saying 10 robes, you see. Of course, you can give 10 robes. Or why would a monk need 10 robes unless he has 9 other monks? He will just need one robe. So you will give that one robe. So it's within your ability to give also. So this limited by location, by object, and by person also. You give to him. Of course, he can give it to someone else who needs it if he wants to. So robe, lodging, food, and health, right? Now, of course, lodging is a bit more difficult because lodging, normally people who give it will be very rich people. They build a small hut for the monk, you know. But technically, it depends. You see, the monk will not, technically the monk should not own the place. But nowadays, they change the rules. Because if they own it, then they break the rules. So it is still owned by the lay people, run by the lay people, so that when the monk leaves, other monks, other suitable monks can come and take over. So that's lodging now, right? Food, of course, is something you can give daily or whenever you can. So those are the four supports. All right. Okay, so it's time now. Any other Last minute urgent questions? No, huh?
There's no more questions, Father Piya.
Yeah. Thank you, Exi. Right. So now we will close with the.
We take photo first.
Oh yeah, please take. Now let us close this reflection. We have sacrificed a bit of time. This is the practice of renunciation, letting go, nekkhamma, through renunciation, so that we can spend time together here, a global gathering, to study the Buddha Dhamma, and to tell others that the suttas are still available. You can still study those suttas. There are notes you can study. There are videos you can watch. You can also study on your own. Nobody owns the Dhamma, and yet everyone can use it. We have gathered here citing the 3 refuges and 5 precepts. We have practiced meditation and listened to the Dhamma and asked questions and listened to the answers. All these are wonderful, good mental karma, verbal karma, and our action of gathering together is bodily action. So rejoice in this good karma you have done. They will protect you. They will help you in your practice in the future. This is the time to invoke this wonderful good karma and tell yourself, may I be well and happy. May I be at peace with myself, so that I am able to understand the Dhamma better and clearer, and help others see the Dhamma too. And send your kind thoughts to other loved ones, family and friends, people you know all around you, that they too will find the right and good and happy occasion to know the Dhamma. And send out your loving kindness to other people as necessary, wherever they are. This is a good time to do that. And finally, we close by showing our gratitude and respect to the 3 jewels for whom we are gathered here. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Bow down. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Bow down. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namam. Bow down. May all beings be well and happy. So see you all. Have a good weekend.